Comparing investment returns is really being able to answer this question. We're given three investment options, options A, B, and C. We want to know which one of these is the best investment. Option A is an antique watch, bought for 500, going to 700 in 2 years. Option B is a house for 100,000, which increases by 10,000. And option C is a stamp collection bought for $5 that can be resold for $10 in 3 months' time. Which one is the best investment? Well, looking at those numbers, it's a little bit hard to tell. What we need to do is to calculate the rate of return for each of the scenarios and compare that rate of return. Okay, we're going to do this using compound interest. We've got our compound interest formula there. And for each of these scenarios, I'll start with scenario A. We're going to calculate the compound interest rate. I'll list my elements of my compound interest formula. A is the amount invested, A is the amount we end up with, P is the amount invested, N is the time, and I is the interest rate. In scenario A, the amount we end up with is 700. How much did we start with, or how much did we invest? 500. The interest rate I'm not sure of, and the time in years is 2. Now that I've extracted that information, I can write my formula, substitute in my known values, and solve for I. I'll divide by 500 first. Take the square root of both sides. Normally there's a 2 there, but since it's a square root, I don't need to write that. And then isolate I. Put that into my calculator and I'll get an interest rate of 0.183. Remember, that's as a decimal. Need to convert it into a percentage. 18.3%, so it sounds pretty good. I need to do the same thing for scenario B and for scenario C, and then I'll compare those interest rates and see which one's the best. In scenario B, I ended up with 110,000. I started with 100,000. Don't know the interest rate, and I know that it was 1 year. Scenario C, ended up with $10, started with $5, don't know the interest rate, but I know it was for only 3 months, so for 3/12ths of a year. Go ahead and calculate the interest rate for those other 2 scenarios, and then compare the 3 interest rates. 18.3% for scenario A, 10% for scenario B, and 1,500% for scenario C. Obviously, in this scenario, we'd choose scenario C. We'd choose to invest in the stamps. Just little things to note in here. When I head to the power 1, I'm not going to take the first root of both sides. I can just get rid of the brackets because anything to the power 1 is just itself. And the other thing is when I got an interest rate of 15, I needed to remember that was still a decimal, so it still needed to be multiplied by 100 to turn into a percentage. There's also some tax considerations here, that investment income is generally taxed at a certain rate, normally around 30%. Some share investments pay franked dividends, so we don't need to pay tax on them because the company's already paid tax on it for us. And we just need to make sure that we're comparing pre-tax and post-tax returns. But in the question, it should be quite clear. Have a go at these questions. Good luck.